Fertility in Eliot's The Wasteland. In T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, Eliot incorporates infertility to describe not only the wasteland but also its sexually frustrated inhabitants. Eliot's wasteland is described as a 20th century desert where the population are barren of offspring and suffer from ennui. The land is physically barren of young male inhabitants due to World War I, and the women are left sexually frustrated. An excerpt from Eliot's The Fire Sermon says, "The river bears no empty bottles, sandwich wrappers, silk handkerchiefs, cardboard boxes, cigarette ends, or other testimony of summer nights. The nymphs are departed, and their friends, their loitering heirs of the city directors, departed, have left no addresses." Nymphs are mythological spirits of nature that often lounge near rivers and ponds. They are depicted as young, beautiful maidens who love to dance and sing. Eliot uses these spirits to describe 20th century women before the land became barren. Like nymphs, they would roam along rivers, in this case the Thames, and attract men. Now that the land is infertile, the nymphs are departed, and men no longer venture out to find them. Infertile land leads to ennui from both sexes. In addition to nymphs, Eliot uses other tales like the tale of Hyacinth, Philomel, and Antony and Cleopatra as quintessential examples of failed, infertile, sexual relationship. We are familiar with the flower the hyacinth, but the tale of the hyacinth goes back to Greek mythology. He is often associated with Apollo because he was his lover. However, Hyacinth was also admired by the west wind Zephyr. Eliot uses their relationship to emphasize infertile relationships, because their union soon turns for the worst. One day, Apollo and Hyacinth are playing discus when it suddenly goes off course and Hyacinth is struck by it. The cause of the rogue discus was Zephyr, who was jealous of the relationship between Apollo and Hyacinth. Apollo makes the blood of Hyacinth into a flower, not allowing Hades to take his soul into the underworld. In Eliot's The Burial of the Dead, he states, "You gave me hyacinths first a year ago. They called me the Hyacinth Girl. Yet when we came back, late, from the Hyacinth Garden, your arms full, and your hair wet, I could not speak, and my eyes failed. I was neither living nor dead, and I knew nothing." This excerpt shows a failed attempt at communication and a lack of intimacy, just like Apollo and Hades' failure to connect in their lifetime. Apollo and Hyacinth weren't the only couple left sexually frustrated and infertile. The tale of Philomel is one that proves equally as tragic. A minor figure in Greek mythology, Philomel, or Philomela, is identified as the princess of Athens. Her sister, Procne, was the wife of King Tereus of Thrace. After being raped by Hecterius, she was abandoned with her tongue removed, so she could not tell anyone of her attacker. After Philomel's father sought revenge, Tereus came and attempted to kill Philomel and her sister. In desperation, they prayed to the gods to turn them into birds to escape Tereus' revenge. Philomela was turned into a nightingale, and her sister into a swallow. Like Hyacinth, Philomel was turned into something that adds beauty to nature. As the hyacinth adds color to prevent a wasteland, a nightingale's song is noted for its beauty. In Eliot's A Game of Chess, he says, "As a window gave upon the sylvan scene, the change of Philomel by the barbarous king so rudely forced, yet there was a nightingale filled all the desert with involuble voice, and still she cried, and still the word pursues, jug jug to dirty ears." The relationship between Tereus and Philomel was dirty and barren of offspring. Eliot uses the tale of Philomel as a symbol of another infertile relationship. The land has little hope as ennui prevails. Consequently, the tale of the impotent Fisher King resonates throughout the wasteland. The Fisher King, wounded in his groin, proves infertile and cannot sufficiently rule his land, causing it to decay into a wasteland. The tale of the Fisher King highlights how a land becomes a wasteland, and begins with Percival, who is looking for his mother. He comes across a local passing time by fishing. He needs a place to stay, and the benevolent man invites him to stay at his house. Once Percival finds the house, it ends up being a castle that only he can see, and the man who offered his house to him ends up being the Fisher King, the king of the land. The king is relying on Percival to help save his land from infertility. The Fisher King is wounded, preventing him from ruling his land and proving him infertile. The only way to cure the king and prevent a wasteland is to ask the right questions. The king presents Percival with several opportunities to ask the right questions, including presenting Percival with the Holy Grail, which, out of respect, Percival decides to not ask questions about, out of fear of appearing uneducated. Because he didn't ask the questions he needed to, the king's city fails and falls into ennui, simply because of a lack of questioning and activity. Due to his moral immaturity and attraction to the king's luxury, Percival failed the king, and the city turned into a wasteland. Throughout the Wasteland, Eliot makes several references to the tale of the Fisher King. The title of Eliot's work, The Wasteland, is a direct reference to the state of the Fisher King's land, which is desolate and infertile along with its people. The Fisher King is symbolic of the mechanical, barren population of the 20th century. In addition to the title, Eliot makes a reference to the Fisher King in A Game of Chess. The woman in A Game of Chess asks questions like, "What is that noise now? What is the wind doing?" Nothing, again, nothing. You know nothing? Do you see nothing? Do you remember nothing? Here, she is not asking the right questions, just like Percival, who did not ask the right questions to the Fisher King, causing his land to become a wasteland. Overall, the narrative of the Fisher King displays how a wasteland is developed, and Eliot shows how the same causes create the same fragmented effects in a 20th century. T.S. Eliot, a modernist poet, called modernism the immense panorama of futility and anarchy which is contemporary history. He tried to convey the fragmented and alienated people of society through his work The Wasteland. The Wasteland is set in a time of modern crisis. Productivity in society has halted as people begin to lose desire to conceive anything new, producing an infertile society sexually and productively.
At the violet hour, when the eyes and back turn upward from the desk, when the human engine waits like a taxi throbbing, waiting, I, Tiresias, though blind, throbbing between two lives, old man with wrinkled female breasts, can see at the violet hour, the evening hour that strives homeward and brings the sailor home.
In the previous excerpt, T.S. Eliot is reading his The Fire Sermon from The Wasteland. In the previous excerpt, he says, "At the violet hour, when the eye and back turn upward from the desk, when the human engine waits like a taxi." This is him describing 20th century humans. He says that they are in a state of limbo, where they are lacking in motivation and productivity as a society. They are mechanical, meticulous creatures who don't care to make any changes, causing the land to become barren and wasteful. Similarly to Dostoevsky's Notes from the Underground, T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland provides commentary on current society. He describes humans as mechanical, meticulous creatures who don't care to make any changes, causing the land to become barren and wasteful. They aren't asking the right questions and taking enough initiative to make a difference, thus producing a barren wasteland. In T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, Eliot incorporates infertility to describe not only the wasteland, but also its sexually frustrated inhabitants. Eliot uses literature and Greek mythology to present his current 20th century society as a wasteland and serve as an omen to future generations of what is to come if this persistent state of ennui isn't prevented.